Good evening once again. Our top story tonight, he was a shepherd of Buffalo's resurgence. Tonight, Western New York is mourning the loss of prominent developer Mark Croce, who tragically died in a helicopter crash last night, alongside another well-known community member from Orchard Park, Mike Capriano. Now, Croce was flying the helicopter that crashed last night about 8:30, 9 o'clock in Pennsylvania. Capriano was his passenger. They were both headed back to Buffalo from Washington, D.C. when the helicopter went down in a neighborhood just outside of Harrisburg. Federal authorities are now working to try and figure out what might have caused that crash. Croce's death comes as long-awaited renovation work continues at Statler City here downtown, a landmark building in the heart of Buffalo that sat in bankruptcy until finally Croce stepped in. And that's where we begin our coverage on the story tonight with a look back at the lives of both of these men. 7 Eyewitness News senior reporters Eileen Buckley and Ed Riley are live tonight on Delaware Avenue in Buffalo.
Keith, Mark Croce is being remembered as visionary and a Buffalo booster. We talked to two of his friends who were shaken by news of his tragic death.
We're taking a page out of the book of what we did at Sky Bar. For the younger clientele, this is going to be the adult playground. This is going to be the place for happy hours, special events, corporate events, weddings.
That's the Mark Croce friends say they will remember. A businessman with passion who took a risk on Buffalo developments. Others recall the man they shared a deep friendship with.
I've shared a lot of good times with him, birthday celebrations, family celebrations, the birth of his children, when he married his wife. I mean, we have been friends for a long time.
State Assembly Majority Leader Crystal Peoples-Stokes couldn't hold back her tears as she described her longtime friendship with Croce and his family.
It's just a shocking thing to wake up to in the morning. Mark was a good man. He was a great friend of mine. I could call him anytime.
The Assemblywoman was attending the Amherst Chamber of Commerce luncheon and State of the Town address with a few hundred members of the business community. Chamber President and CEO A.J. Baines held a moment of silence to honor both men who died in the crash.
And I would like to just have a moment of silence if we could, please.
Baines was also friends with Croce and even flew on his helicopter.
He loved aviation, he loved flight. From any time we would talk, that was one of the conversations he would touch on.
Baines says it's a tragic loss for Croce's wife, Jessica, and their two children, Dominic and Dante.
He was passionate about his family, he was passionate about aviation, he was passionate about Buffalo.
Croce bought the mostly vacant Statler Towers from the city in 2011, saving it from possible demolition. He restored 3 of the landmark's 19 floors and turned the long vacant Curtis building a few blocks away into a boutique hotel and downtown dining destination. He took a risk on the city of Buffalo before others did.
Yeah, I think when you look at where he started, I mean, he was renting the first floor of the Coliseum. He was renting it. He didn't even own the building. He was renting it, and he was putting a nightclub in there. It's an incredible story that he has.
Peoples-Stokes says when Croce had a plan, he saw it through.
He loved Buffalo, and Buffalo loved him, and he will never, ever, ever be forgotten.
Stokes was so upset by Croce's death that after talking with reporters, she went into a corner of the room to compose herself before heading back into an event. And now my colleague Ed Riley has more on Croce's development legacy.
Well, Eileen, I think a lot of us can remember a time when downtown Buffalo was full of many old, empty buildings. Well, now Buffalo is going through a renaissance, and a lot of people believe Mark Croce was a big credit in moving that forward. Of course, the big question now is what happens to his plans and projects now that Mark Croce is no longer with us.
Croce was one of the biggest developers here. There are others, but just none like him.
Buffalo Common Council President Darius Pridgeon feels this city has not only lost a good friend, but someone who had a unique vision for seeing potential in old buildings.
This was a guy who you didn't see him really build from the ground up a lot of things. You saw him taking the old and making it new again.
Croce's projects such as Sky Bar, Darcy McGee's Irish Pub, the Buffalo Chop House, the Curtis Hotel, and the still work-in-progress Statler City were changing the downtown landscape.
This guy literally picked the sinks himself.
It is also a very personal loss. Darius Pridgeon was close friends with Mark Croce, and the two often talked about downtown development.
I don't know if I've ever met anybody who was as driven as Mark Croce.
Croce and his Buffalo Development Corporation had high hopes for Statler City and felt it would play a key role if a new downtown convention center was built, something Croce talked about with reporter Ed Dranch in 2018.
I appreciate the public's patience, but like I said, there's a lot of large-scale buildings that we'd all love to wave a magic wand and say, poof, Buffalo is back on the map. Let's get all these projects done and let's see if we can do it all in next year. It just doesn't happen that way.
Sadly, Croce's death occurs as his joint redevelopment project at 73 Huron Street is wrapping up. It is creating the new Buffalo School of Culinary Arts and Hospitality Management. Buffalo Public Schools issued a statement expressing profound sadness and calling Mark Croce a champion of authentic access and opportunity for our students.
He talked about imagining the students and he wanted the best in that project.
So what will happen to Croce's projects going forward? Buffalo Development Corporation also issued a statement thanking the outpouring of support and assuring employees and the public that Mark Croce's businesses will continue without interruption.
But his heart was in everything that he did, so it's a tremendous loss for the city of Buffalo to have somebody who was believing in Buffalo before Buffalo believed in itself.
A ribbon cutting for the new Culinary Arts and Hospitality School is scheduled for February, and the Buffalo Public Schools District tells me that it will include a special tribute for Mark Croce. For my colleague Eileen Buckley, I'm Ed Riley, live in downtown Buffalo.
All right, Ed, Eileen, thank you.